This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello, I'm Tensai Gabiao, your host for this hour's news. Today, our news program will give extensive coverage to the Africa-China cooperation. A high-level seminar themed China Supports Africa's Industrialization, Promoting Green, Coordinated and Sustainable Development was held in Addis Ababa today, highlighting the deepening partnership between Africa and China. This event brought together key stakeholders from the African Union, the Chinese government, and various international organizations to explore new avenues of collaboration. The discussion focused on new energy development, labor-intensive industries, and the digital economy, thereby reinforcing the shared commitment to sustainable growth. This seminar underscores the enduring strength of the relationship between Africa and China, which is based on mutual respect, trust, and shared vision for industrial development and environmental sustainability across the continent. Africa's prospects to tap into its vast potential for development gains renewed momentum as leaders from China and the African Union convene in Addis Ababa to chart a path toward accelerated industrialization. Speaking this morning at a high-level China-Africa seminar, head of the Chinese mission to the AU, Ambassador Zhang Feng, emphasized that turning Africa's rich resources into engines of growth is vital for achieving inclusive and sustainable prosperity. He said accelerating industrialization is essential for Africa to turn its resources advantages into a driving force for development and achieve inclusive and sustainable growth. Ambassador Feng noted that under the AU's Agenda 2063 and the Action Plan for Accelerated Industrial Development of Africa, the continent has taken firm steps toward industrialization. The African Continental Free Trade Area are laying a strong market foundation, he noted, while national strategies being implemented in Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Zambia are driving local progress. Industrial zones established in countries like South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, Nigeria, and Côte d'Ivoire are promoting industries such as automotive, aviation, chemicals, cement, and textiles. Ambassador Zhang highlighted that China has long been a steadfast supporter of Africa's industrialization, with the Belt and Road Initiative serving as a major platform for cooperation over the past decade. He outlined the main areas of progress as comprising policy and trade, infrastructure development, as well as financial and human development. African Union has reaffirmed Africa's strong commitment to partnering with China to advance green, coordinated, and sustainable industrialization under the framework of Agenda 2063. Program of the seminar on China Supports Africa's Industrialization, Promoting Green, Coordinated, and Sustainable Development held in Addis Ababa. Speaking at the seminar, AU Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Lerato Dorothy Matabog, said Africa is entering a new era of transformation driven by its abundant resources, youthful population, and innovation potential. She emphasized that industrialization should not only be about building factories, but promoting dignity, self-reliance, and shared prosperity. Industrialization without capacity building is like planting without preparing the soil, she said, adding, we must invest in our youth, women, and girls. When they rise, Africa rises. Matabok applauded China's steadfast partnership in training, scholarships, infrastructure, and knowledge exchange, which she said have strengthened African institutions and human capital. Calling for stronger collaboration, she outlined key areas for joint action, including strengthening industrial strategies, establishing regional centers of excellence for green technologies, expanding technical and vocational training, and promoting digital skills development. She also highlighted the need for public-private partnerships that combine training with technology transfer, as well as development of digital infrastructure to bridge Africa's technological gap. Matabo concluded by affirming the AU's readiness to work closely with China to turn shared priorities into concrete results that will advance inclusive, resilient, and sustainable growth across the continent.
This is Africa. the cradle of humanity, the frontier of the future, a land of visionaries, creators and pioneers, a continent of unstoppable energy where innovation meets tradition, where voices rise, loud and fearless.
I am an African.
This is the heartbeat of a billion people, diverse, bold, united by a single purpose to tell our own stories in our own way. No borders, no barriers, no filters. A new era of African storytelling is here. From every corner of the continent, from the bustling cities to the quiet village, we tell Africa's story by Africans for the world. This is the land of a rising Africa, where Africa speaks and the world listens. This is why today we bring you POA, Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Focusing on China Africa Seminar, our POA reporter Zelalem Yibeltal has been attending this seminar and is now joining us here in the studio. How are you, Zelalem?
Good, thank you.
So tell us about the main focus of the seminar and what brought together stakeholders from Africa and China.
All right. Thank you very much. So the seminar was conducted here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the political and diplomatic capital of Africa. So the seminar focused on China's support to Africa's industrialization. The seminar essentially focused on Chinese support to Africa's infrastructure and energy, and various stakeholders have been attending this super important seminar being held here in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Chinese high-level diplomats, senior African Union officials, and other stakeholders from business and from academics were presented. For example, China head of mission to the African Union, His Excellency Ambassador Jinping, he was presented and he has also delivered a speech there in the seminar. By the way, China head of mission to the African Union, His Excellency Ambassador Jinping, is also Chinese representative to the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. Officials from African Union were also presented. For example, African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Her Excellency Lerato Mataba, was presented, and she also addressed a message during the seminar. So there were senior officials from African Union and high-ranking Chinese diplomats were also involved in the seminar, and other researchers and business people from both sides, from China and Africa, participated in the seminar, and it was a very fruitful and productive seminar, I would say. The seminar has essentially focused on China-Africa cooperation. For example, the seminar started with China-Africa cooperation in terms of development. As we know, China and Africa have forged and cultivated a very strong cooperation and partnership over the past few years and few decades, if you would like to say so. The two sides are cementing and fostering their partnership and ties in development. And China is, of course, supporting Africa in its development endeavor, in its development efforts. For example, China is supporting different infrastructure developments, different development projects like railways, roads, ports, and infrastructure projects. And China has stayed as Africa's reliable development partner. And the seminar has touched upon, of course, China-Africa cooperation in terms of energy. Energy is badly needed in Africa. Africa to propel economic growth and to utilize and to harness its natural endowments and resource. Africa needs energy, and China is also supporting energy infrastructures in Africa. In particular, China is very much focused on renewable energy sources like solar and wind energy. So far, China has been supporting energy infrastructures, for example, in countries like Zambia, Ethiopia, and in many other African countries. China is extending its support for many African countries. So China has showed its steadfast commitment to support Africa's energy infrastructure. And the seminar has also touched upon China-Africa cooperation in terms of industrialization, in particular in terms of labor-intensive manufacturing, labor-intensive industries, labor-intensive industries like textile industry, like garment industry, like agro-processing industries and others. China is supporting Africa's industrialization paths in many ways. For example, China is supporting the construction of industrial parks in Africa. During the summit, for example, China head of mission to the African Union, His Excellency Ambassador Jim Ving, highlighted that China has been supporting the construction of industrial parks in countries like Egypt, in countries like Nigeria, in countries like Ethiopia, in Zambia, and many other African countries. China has been involved in the construction of industrial parks. This is great, and this will leapfrog development in Africa. You know, such kind of industries, such kind of manufacturing industries will create job, will also, you know, make the economy very much productive, will make the economy very much diverse. So one of the ways that China supports Africa's industrialization path is by participating in the construction of industrial parks. The other way is, of course, China is, you know, training African professionals, African workers. China is training Africans both in China and here in African soil. So there are many ways that China is supporting Africa's industrialization path. China is, of course, supporting Africa's industrialization by relocating manufacturing industries. For example, many industries, many factories in China are relocating to Africa, and because there is affordable labor here in Africa, and Africa is also experiencing huge economic development over the past few years and decades. There is also a growing, burgeoning population in Africa, so this is a great advantage for China. So because of this, China is relocating manufacturing industries to Africa. So in many other ways, China is supporting Africa's path to industrialization. And the other point that was very much the agenda in the seminar today was China-Africa cooperation in terms of digital technology. You know, nowadays digital technology and digitalization is the question of the time, of course. And unless Africa works on digital technology, unless Africa works on digital infrastructure, Africa will lag behind development. And China understands this, and Africans also understand this too. And the two sides are cooperating in terms of digital technology, in terms of expanding digital infrastructures in Africa. For example, Chinese factories and companies like ZTE and Huawei are expanding Africa's digital infrastructure. They are participating in building broadband networks and 5G zones and other digital infrastructures. They are hugely cooperating with African countries in terms of propelling digital technologies in Africa. You know, Chinese technology are also manufacturing affordable smartphones so that those smartphones are accessible to Africa, so Africa will not lag behind digitalization. So the seminar has touched upon such kind of you know, various aspects of China-Africa cooperation, and it has been very much productive.
That's very good. And what implications does this seminar have for strengthening Africa-China relationships?
That's a great question. I mean, China and Africa have been bolstering their long-standing partnership, long-standing cooperation in many fields, from development to politics to peace, security, and to global affairs. You know, China is the second largest economy in the entire world, only next to the United States of America. You know, Chinese gross domestic product, GDP, is estimated to be like more than 19 trillion US dollar, and there's huge economies in it. So Africa will benefit very much from China's growing economy. Africa is also experiencing fast economic growth. Many countries in Africa, for example, Ethiopia, Zambia, South Africa, Egypt, Tanzania, Ghana, and many African countries are experiencing rapid economic growth. So the economic growth in Africa, the population growth in Africa is becoming a huge market for Africa. So the cooperation between China and Africa will ensure mutual benefit for both sides. So the seminar will cement that long-standing partnership and cooperation between the two sides, between China and Africa. As I said, their cooperation spans from development to politics and global affairs. For example, these days, China is supporting Africa's legitimate quest for a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. So Africa, with a population of 1.3 billion and above, has no permanent seat in the Security Council, in the United Nations Security Council. So Africans are advocating for securing a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, and one of the members in the United Nations Security Council, China, is supporting Africa's move, Africa's legitimate quest for a permanent seat in the Security Council. And in a reciprocal move, Africa is also supporting China when the need be in the global affairs. Africa is also showing their support for Africa's for Chinese influence and for Chinese global influence. So the two sides, China and Africa, are benefiting from their enduring, from their long-standing partnership, I would say.
That was very insightful. Thank you for joining us, Zelalem.
Thank you.
Now let's move on to other headlines. The Liberian Senate has unanimously passed the Cybercrime Act of 2025, aligning with the House of Representatives to bolster the nation's digital and cybersecurity framework. Presented by Senator Francis Dopo II, chairman of the Committee on Post and Telecommunications, the act defines cybercrime as any offense where ICT is central. The Joint Senate Committees concluded public hearings, benchmark against ECOWAS, AU, and global standards, and reviewed legal, technical, and policy aspects. This landmark law signals Liberia's commitment to combating cyber threats as protecting its digital infrastructure in the 21st century. Djibouti's Ministry of Youth and Culture launched the 5th Pan-African Youth Forum, uniting over 500 young leaders from 55 African countries for a 3-day event coinciding with National and African Youth Day. Under the theme From Aspirations to Action, Youth Catalyst for Sustainable Development, the forum promotes youth roles in economic growth, governance, and AU Agenda 2063. Minister Hibo Mumin Asawa stressed that young Africans are active drivers of change, turning challenges like climate change into opportunities through innovation and boldness. The platform fosters collaboration between youth and policymakers to build partnerships and African-led solutions. First held in Togo in 2016, now hosting in Djibouti, highlights its commitment to youth empowerment and continental unity. Now let's check the current weather forecast. Thanks for tuning in, and goodbye until the next Hour's News program.